Hey book besties, my name is Angie. This is my channel, Maybe I'll Read Today, where we talk about books that I may or may not have read. Today's going to be the start of a new reading vlog. My cat's next to me, which honestly makes me a little nervous because I accidentally stepped on her yesterday and I don't think she forgave me for it yet. And so she's like right next to me and I feel like she's going to attack me at any moment. So we're going to try and keep this brief. We're doing a reading vlog. It is October. I'm trying to expand out of the genres that I usually read. And by that, I mean I'm going to continue to read horror, but it's going to be classic horror this time. So I have 3 classic horrors and we're gonna read them for a week. First one is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is about a vampire. I've never read the book in full, I don't think. I've seen it as like a play adaptation. I really liked it, but I don't think I've ever read the actual source material. Am I subscribed to Dracula Daily? Yes. Have I opened any of those emails since it started earlier this year? Nope. Second book, Frankenstein, Mary Shelley. I have read this one before, but I don't remember anything that happened, so I'm gonna read it again. And I'm actually really excited to read this copy because this is a used copy and there's like notes, there's like tabbies from the person who read it before. Last one is Perfume by Suskind. This is the only one that I feel like warrants a brief synopsis because like everyone knows who Frankenstein is, everyone knows who Dracula is, but who is Perfume? That's not their name. And this is a book that follows a serial killer who has like a very strong sense of smell, and he also works as like a perfume person. He like smells someone and it's the perfect scent, so he's trying to find that person or trying to replicate that smell, ? And the only reason I know this book exists is because of one of the most iconic K-pop groups who are disbanded, ? Gothic horror boy band group extraordinaire VIX released a song. It's really good. I'll include a clip if YouTube allows me. Concept of the song and the music video was based off of Perfume, and I was like, only legends would do something like that, and so here it is. And yeah, that's the reading vlog. I'm gonna do that. Like, look how close she's sitting next to me. Nervous making. Hey. She's been too quiet recently, and so I think she's just planning her attack. Only time will tell. Okay, bye. I'm only 35 pages into Frankenstein. I'm already obsessed with Victor Frankenstein. I know technically he's like the villain because he like creates the monster and then he's not cool with the monster, but I am also low-key obsessed with him. He like starts off his whole science journey reading these like really outdated texts about like immortality and raising ghosts and shit like that, and he's basically starting college now. His professor is like, hey, those things that you were obsessed with, it's wrong. And he's like, yeah, I kind of figured, I'm 17, I kind of figured that out, but there's just something more interesting about the science, although it's fake, the science of raising the dead than it is to like study like natural philosophy. He's giving me very much like Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved energy, because he's just like, yeah, like I know it can't be explained and I know it's probably 100% fake, but man, am I obsessed with ghosts. And I'm convinced that if Victor Frankenstein exists in 2022, he would be a YouTuber ghost hunter. That's what Mary Shelley would have wanted for Mr. Frankenstein. Hello? I think my cat's coming. I finished volume 1 of Frankenstein. I'm really surprised to say this, but I'm like really genuinely enjoying this book. The way that this is written feels like a modern-ish book, which I really appreciate. What can I say? I love Victor Frankenstein. I think he's gonna be like one of my favorite characters of all time. I just think he's really funny in like a not funny, pathetic way. And by that, I mean, I feel like he would have had a Tumblr in 2012. As far as volume 1 goes, at college, he creates the Wretch, right? And the Wretch is Frankenstein's monster. He's the guy, he's the man, he's the title character. What I really like from the person who had this book before me is like, when they first introduced the Wretch, this person made an annotation that was like, wretch has 2 different meanings. It could either mean someone worthy of pity or someone we should hate. And I think that's a really cool detail that this person noted. I feel like that's going to be his entire journey. Like, you as the reader is going to feel bad for him because he's just trying to like be accepted into society, but society is going to feel differently and view him as someone to hate because he looks different. And by looking different, I mean that he's ugly. One of the things that Victor really emphasizes when he introduces the Wretch is that he is so ugly, which, like, who can blame him? He's a reanimated corpse, right? But it was just so funny to me because Victor's like really upset how ugly he is. And it's like, bro, you chose the parts. You could have made him sexy and you chose not to. In the name of science, you chose not to make him sexy. What I do like about this book, though, is that a lot of it is just about finding a companion. Even the guy in the introduction, Walton, he's like a whale hunter, and he's writing to his sister, and he's just talking about how much he wants a bro. He just wants a friend. When Victor first starts college, he has the same kind of conflict. He doesn't know if he's gonna have friends, if he's gonna make friends, because he's very shy. He already has his people. And then I feel like the Wretch's entire journey is just gonna be about him trying to find a friend and somebody, try to be accepted in some capacity. But again, to go back to volume 1, he makes the Wretch. He gets really upset because he's very ugly. He runs away. Victor is sick for at least 6 months, which is wild to me, except it was the 1700s, so I feel like the flu kind of hit you harder in the 1700s than it did in the 2020s. He finally hears from his family and they're just like, hey, we really miss you, like come home, come visit us. And then as he's making his way home, he gets another letter from his dad saying that his youngest brother, William, was murdered. On his way home, he sees the Wretch, and so he's convinced that the Wretch is the one who killed his youngest brother. Despite the fact that already at home, their like nanny is being charged with the crime, and she confesses to it, and is very clear that she like did this, he's still convinced that she's innocent and that it was the Wretch who did it, which I think is very silly and very like pretty privilege of her. Because like he even goes to visit her in the jail cell before she's like put to death, and he's like, sweetie, I know it wasn't you. You are so innocent, you're so kind, you're so sweet and lovely and cute. And it's like she literally confessed. Unless it comes out later on in the book that it was actually Frankenstein who did it, or the Wretch who did it, then I'll eat my words and like, Justine, I'm so sorry, sweetie. But like, she killed this child. She's just pretty, which I think is also another theme in this book. Mary Shelley wasn't thinking about pretty privilege in the terms that we have today in 2022, but a lot of it is about like pretty privilege. And if you're like, if you are perceived as innocent and beautiful and kind, then you will be trusted that you are. However, if you're ugly, then you're ugly and you're a monster and you should die. That's where I'm at right now. So my plan is to finish having breakfast. I'm watching Twin Peaks as I'm having my coffee. Then I have to clean my desk because it's a nightmare, put away laundry, and I think while I'm doing that, I'm going to find the audiobook for Frankenstein so I can still read. Gotta do the dishes too. Fuck. I've only been awake for like 3 hours. Well, how do I already have all of this to do? If this is really shaky, I'm really sorry. I'm holding this with my hand. I don't have my little like stand near me, so this is just a quick update. Finished all my house chores, listened to the audiobook, and I got a good chunk into volume 2, which is like the creature story. However, I don't really like listening to the audiobook because I started like tuning it out as I was doing like stuff. But basically we're listening to the creature story or the Wretch's story, whatever you want to call him. He has like this parasocial relationship with these like cottage people. He learns French, he's learning about the world, and he's kind of just realizing that he's like the only one of his kind, you know. And he even says like God created man in his image, even Satan has demons who look like him, who are part of his world, but I'm me and I'm by myself, and that kind of really sucks, and my creator doesn't even like me. And so he's kind of going through it, understandably so. He's even more of a comrade, like he's an actual like comrade compared to Victor, who is just a comrade in like spirit alone because he's depressed and pathetic. But you know, he learns about poverty, he learns about social inequality. In some ways he's very alone because he's the only creature that's like him, but in other ways he's like almost kind of not thankful of that, but at least mindful that man as a species is so selfish and so like inconsiderate and so violent towards each other that like a little part of him is like, yeah, I'm alone, but like at least I'm not that. However, having the knowledge that man can be as violent as he has witnessed, he's like, if man is like that with his own people, like how are they going to react to me? A creature, a monster, a wretch, you know? So he's kind of going through it. We do feel bad. Hey again, I just wanted to give a quick apologies to Justine. Turns out it was the wretch who killed a little boy. My bad. Basically, the wretch kind of recounted everything to Victor. He met a family. He tried to join the family. They rejected him. Everywhere he goes, they reject him because he's really ugly. Anyways, he gets rejected a bunch of times, and then he does confess. He does come across the little boy, and his totally normal, chill plan was to kidnap the boy and teach the kid to not be so judgmental. That backfires, obviously, and the boy is like, hey, don't mess with me because I'm going to tell my dad. My dad's Mr. Frankenstein. And the wretch is basically like, okay, cool, I was looking for him anyways, and so his first act of revenge was to kill William and then frame the girly Justine. So like, Justine, sweetie, I'm so sorry, I should have believed you. We're getting a little bit of Shrek vibes from this book. Or maybe I should say Shrek is giving a little Frankenstein vibes, which I didn't realize before because I never like actually paid attention while reading Frankenstein. And we're also getting a little bit of that quote about the devil that I really enjoy. So I'll put that up again for like the third time on my channel, maybe. I spent some time decorating my Kindle and Kobo. Haven't done any reading, just wanted to show you my little situations here. I need something for this corner, I just haven't figured it out yet. I don't have it next to me, but I finished Frankenstein last night and I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. Probably one of the best classics I've read thus far, which doesn't really mean anything because it's like one of the first classics that I've read so far. Especially like now that my like frontal lobe is like fulled up and completely formed. I feel like the books I read before that don't really count because I don't remember them very well, but like now this counts. Anyways, this book has everything. It has Ryan Bergara starring as Victor Frankenstein. It has some Shrek vibes. It has some Satan apologist vibes. It has a little bit of a Joker Batman. I want to destroy you, but I can't live without you because your life gives me purpose kind of situation towards the end, which I really enjoyed. So literally like the blueprint for all of the things that I do enjoy in my adult life. And I won't say how it ends, just like I'm giving you a lot of spoilers as it is, so I won't say like the ending, but just know I really enjoyed it. 5 stars, one of my favorite classics. Last night I started Perfume, and this book, I mean, this is kind of like a dumb thing of me to say, considering it's called Perfume, the story of a murderer. But 17 pages in, I can tell this book is going to be a lot darker than Frankenstein. But the first couple of pages that I've read, it's about this guy as a baby, and this baby is like something of a parasite already. No offense to babies in the world, but he as a baby, his mother didn't want him, so she kind of just like left him at a fish stall and was like, yeah, whatever. And then this one lady thinks that he's like of the devil because he doesn't smell like a baby. And not only does he not smell like a baby, because one can argue, well, it's the 18th century Paris, like babies probably don't smell good to begin with. There's a lot of disease going around. Babies probably smell generally bad during this era. However, she says this baby doesn't smell like anything at all, and that's problematic. I guess because he doesn't have a smell that enhances his smell, question mark. I don't understand really the like logic behind that, but I guess I'll learn. But he's a baby who's not a baby and everyone hates him. That's as far as I got. That's my update. Started this. It's fine for now, but again, I'm only like 17 pages in, so I don't really have grounds to say anything about this one as of right now. But Frankenstein, 5 stars. I loved Frankenstein. Hey everyone. I realized last night that there's something fundamentally wrong with me because I was, as you know, reading Perfume, etc., etc. And there is one scene where Jean-Baptiste, our boy, tried to prove himself to this famous perfumer. This perfumer is like watching him like go around his laboratory grabbing different vials and he like describes him as a man possessed. And the only thing I could think of was the scene in Ratatouille when Linguini, is that his name? Lumiere? No, that's Beauty and the Beast. Linguini is cooking for the first time in the kitchen with Ratatouille in his head. And so now this book became a comedy because the only thing I can imagine is a tiny rat on top of this fool's head making perfume. However, I got pretty far last night. Page 151. He has left his apprenticeship and he realized he actually hates the stink of humans so bad. So he spent the last like 7 years in a cave. He was eventually drawn out because he realized he doesn't have a scent and that worries him. I don't know why that worries everyone. Because if I didn't have a scent, I'd feel like I'd be on easy street. The last thing I want is a scent. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have to worry about being sweaty or like smelly or like whatever. it'd be like, oh shoot, I was in a rush, I forgot deodorant, doesn't matter, I don't have a scent. That's ideal for me. But I mean, I guess for Jean-Baptiste, it's not ideal. 150 pages in, he has only killed one person. However, every single time he leaves a living situation, that person dies in a random course of events. So like the nun who took care of him dies as soon as he leaves the orphanage. His first boss dies as soon as he leaves his job. And then this perfumer guy dies because his like house collapsed as soon as he leaves to do his thing. And so I don't know if that counts as a serial killer because he has nothing to do with those deaths. They just kind of happen. But whatever. I have about 100 pages left. I'm probably going to finish today. My plan is to go to the library for a few hours. One, because I have to drop off some books. And then I also have to pick up a poetry book because I'm getting into poetry too now. It's a poetry book about the devil. I'll show it to you later. No reading updates, but this is the Satan poetry book that I was talking about. Not much to say about that, except it's a Satan poetry book. And then I also got this book, The Pickle Index by Eli Horowitz. It's apparently about like a clown who has a failing circus, and then one day, much to his dismay, his audience actually laughs, and so now he has to have like actual circus. I don't know. The idea of a failing clown who gets upset when people actually laugh at his jokes seemed intriguing to me, so I picked it up. I also like the cover. But anyways, yeah, this is what I went to the library for. You know, I said I would share this, and so I'm sharing it. That's it. Morning. I started Dracula last night. I'm only about 20-something pages in, and I got to this description of Dracula, where it says he has a high bridge, thin nose, hair scantily around the temples, but thick hair everywhere else. His eyebrows were very massive. He has a heavy mustache. He has white hair, everything about him is pale, and I fear that I already ruined this book for myself because who's the first person that popped into my head? The guy from Phineas and Ferb. I don't even know his name, but he is Dracula. Anyways, I made another classic a comedy. That's all I wanted to say. First, let's address this. I'm not doing like some weird anime character kind of thing. I have a huge pimple right here, and so I'm trying to suffocate it. Second thing to address is, am I wearing the exact same outfit that I'm wearing in the first part of this video? Yes. Am I a cartoon character brought to life and I only wear 3 things at any given moment? Maybe. If you've been paying attention to my videos and to this channel, the answer leans more towards yes, but maybe. Third thing. This is kind of out of order because I did an update on Dracula before I concluded my thoughts on Perfume, so we're gonna do that. Finished Perfume. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was fine. The first 150 pages, you're kind of just following Jean-Baptiste and his little rat as he is making perfume and he's smelling the smells. That's not a French accent. I don't know what accent that is. I'm so sorry to the country of France, but not really. And then he comes across another girl who has the same smelly smell that the first girl did, and so he becomes obsessed with the smell again. And he's not necessarily obsessed with the smell or obsessed with the girl for like lust reasons. He's more obsessed with the smell because he wants to create the ultimate smell that makes him smell smelly and make him like a god among men, because he figured out like through different smells he can manipulate the smells to make people react to him a certain way. I'm not gonna say what happened in the last 50 pages, but just know it was wild, and it was like on Lapvona levels of wild. I was like, when did this book become this? What's going on? Overall, mildly entertaining. Learned a lot about smells and the art of like distilling oils and things like that, which I didn't really care for. It was like long passages about like the process of distilling oils, which like makes sense given the content of the book, but was still kind of boring to read. And then the last 50 pages definitely saved it because they were just like buck wild. So 3 stars. Also, as you know from the past clip, I started Dracula. I've been alternating between the physical book and the audiobook, and so I'm already like 50%-ish in. This is fun. We start off with Jonathan Harker, and he goes to this castle and he's like super oblivious and super awkward. There's like one point where he's like in a carriage taking him to Dracula's castle, and he notices that the carriage is basically just like driving in circles, making the trip seem a lot longer than it actually is. And I was like, oh my god, if Jonathan Harker was like in today times and his Uber started turning in a different direction, not following the GPS, this boy would be kidnapped and murdered in the middle of nowhere because he'd be too uncomfortable and too awkward to be like, hey, where are we going? So Jonathan Harker is also like another awkward Tumblr queen. And then things escalate because literally 9% into the book, Jonathan Harker is like, I'm a prisoner in this castle. And I was like, well, if you're a prisoner and you can't leave, where's the story going? And then it went places. So the next part of the book follows Jonathan Harker's fiance, Mina, and her friend a couple of months after his disappearance. And her friend is suffering from sleepwalking, and she finds her in front of a church with this guy like hovering over her. Right. And so it's like a multimedia kind of situation where it's like from diaries and letters and telegraphs. And then you start piecing together that Dracula made his way to London, to Jonathan's hometown, for lack of a better word. And so where I'm at, they found out that Mina's friend has been converted to a vampire. And Van Helsing is kind of doing his thing, putting everything together and like rallying everyone up to go against this guy. I always thought, or at least in the play that I've seen, Van Helsing was a Southern cowboy. So I was just under the impression that he was a Southern cowboy, but he's actually a Dutch doctor. And I think the play that I watched just combined him and Quincy, his name is not Quincy Jones, Quincy Morris. I think the play that I watched just combined Quincy Morris's and Van Helsing's character to one, because they made him like a very sexy cowboy lesbian, and it was awesome. But you know, I guess Bram Stoker wasn't thinking of his gay audience when he wrote Van Helsing. He just made him an old Dutch man. I feel like this is gonna be like a 4.5 star read, and I don't know if it's because I'm doing audiobook and physical book, but I don't think I'm connecting to the characters as much as I was when I was reading Frankenstein. Probably because I keep alternating, to be honest. Now that I say it out loud, it makes sense. Today I have a lot of things to do. The first being eat breakfast. The second is I have to email back my work grandma. Then I have to get started on making her something, because I think it'll be nice to send her something in the mail too. Then I have to respond to other emails. So I think I'm gonna go back to the audiobook for most of the day while I'm doing all this stuff. I mean, I have like 50% left. What is that, like 6 hours? So I'll probably be done in like 3 because I listen on double speed, but I'll come back eventually. I really like using this mug because I find it really ironic that it says vibing and thriving. Something that I do neither of. We are manifesting the vibes and the thrives. Quick update. I finished washing my sheets, emailed work grandma, worked on some crochet thing that I can't show because it's a Christmas present, and listened to a lot of Dracula. I have about like 2 hours left, but I just wanted to pop in and say that Mina is the coolest fucking chick in the world. So for context, she gets bit by Dracula the same way that her friend has. Her friend died from it, but she's like currently going through like the vampire transition. And so all the boys are, you know, working together to try and track down Dracula. And like they're about to go into the final fight. And she's like, hey, so if this doesn't work out and I do become a vampire, swear to me that you'll kill me. Chop off my head, put me on fire, do what you gotta do. And then all the boys are like, yeah, like, I got you. And then her husband is like, do I have to make the same promise? Like, how can you ask me, your husband, the love of your life, to cut off your head? And she said, it is men's duty towards those whom they love in such time of sore trial. She said, if you love me, you better be the one to cut off my head. That's so fucking cool. Anyways, I love her. I think she's great. I hope she doesn't die, but I think it's very cool of her to say that. I'm also obsessed with Van Helsing because he is just like this little old man, and he's just like obsessed with Mina at this point. He's like a Mina stan, and I love that about him because me too. 2 hours. I'm probably just gonna lay here for a little bit and then probably finish it in 2 hours. Here we are, friends. I think almost exactly a week later. It is currently 4:23 p.m. and we have reached the end of this reading vlog. Just finished, like literally just finished Dracula. Apologies for not having a bunch of updates about Dracula the way that I did for like Frankenstein or whatever, or the other guy. It's mostly because I was mostly listening to it, and so like to pause every single time that I was like reading it would be kind of annoying, and so I didn't. I think I would give this 4 stars, which is what I predicted, like at the halfway mark. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of things going on, a really dense kind of book. And I think for that reason, it's not 100% 5-star for me. Like, it was really good, it was really enjoyable, but it was also kind of a lot. And I feel like they could have killed Dracula a lot sooner if they weren't being such babies about it. The things that I did like about Dracula: Lucy, especially in her first letter to like Mina, when she was telling her about all her proposals, and she was like, get ready for the sloppiest letter ever because my life is a mess right now. And I just thought she was so funny. Second thing I really liked, Mina. I thought she was great. I loved that she was kind of like the brains of the group. Unfortunately, because of sexism, they kind of forced her to be the brains of the group and like didn't allow her to be part of the actual hunt, but she was like putting all the information together. You know, she was using the hypnosis to mind link with Dracula to find out where he is in the world. She was doing it all, is what I'm saying. I also really liked how these fools just like banded together and became monster hunters. Like, amazing, incredible. I feel like if this was actually made in like the 2020s, it would have been an ongoing series where it was like Mina and the boys hunting more monsters. It would have became a franchise, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. What else did I like? I loved Jonathan Harker. I called him pathetic and funny at the beginning, but then like when he's with Mina, they are so like into each other and so in love with each other and so protective of each other. I was obsessed with them. What I didn't like, and this is mostly just about the audiobook narration, is that the girl who did Mina's chapters, when she had to do Van Helsing's voice, her accent, I don't know which accent she was trying to do, but regardless, the accent that she was trying to do came off like borderline racist. And I was just like, I hated listening to her chapters when Van Helsing had something to say. The Mina part of her chapters were really good, but the Van Helsing parts, I was like, this feels racist, and I don't know why. That's basically it. I enjoyed it despite that. So final conclusion on classic horrors is that they're kind of fun, and it's more fun when you try to make parallels to present times to make sense of the world, and then you realize that all classic men are just Tumblr users from 2013. So I think I'm like kind of in my classics era. In the back of my copy of Dracula, it had like an old school like order form to order more books, and I saw that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was on there and Phantom of the Opera was on there, and I was like, man, I should have read those for this vlog, because Perfume isn't technically a classics classic. It was published in the 1980s, but I kept it in this vlog because things feel better in groups of 3. And also because Storygraph classified it as a classic anyway, so I was like, okay, solid. If Storygraph says it's fine, then it's fine. But overall, really enjoyed them. Frankenstein, by far my favorite. Dracula, close second. And then Perfume was just like a solid, like whatever. Like, you can kind of tell it was written by a man. So was Dracula, but like there was still like some good writing in there. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for going on this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day. I had so many plans for October videos, and this is the only one I think you're gonna get, actually, so enjoy it.